Hello. Tonight we are in Nehemiah. We're starting Nehemiah. Nehemiah is about 50 or 60 years after Ezra has come back. So the people have pretty much been reestablished in Jerusalem. The temple has been built. There are people around. They're starting to live and conduct business and whatnot. But Nehemiah is still back with the king, with Artaxerxes. And he is the cupbearer to the king, as you'll see as he describes it. It opens up with Nehemiah's prayer. He has heard that the gates of Jerusalem are still in disrepair. All the walls are torn down, and the city itself is in rubbles. Even though the temple had been rebuilt, the city was not restored. And it had been that way for now quite a long time. So somewhere around the 440s, 450 BC, Nehemiah is speaking, and the temple was finished somewhere around 510, 520 BC. So 50 or 60 years earlier. So look at Nehemiah's prayer. Nehemiah prays to the Lord, and he immediately talks about all the sins that the people had committed and whatnot, but he's reminding the Lord that there's this remnant. And he says, "They're your servants, whom you redeemed by your great strength and your mighty hand." And he says, because of them, listen to me. I have a complaint. I have something I want to see done. And then the last thing he says, I was the cupbearer to the king. Cupbearer means, the way I understand it anyway, is that he basically tasted everything before the king drank it. So he didn't eat anything or drink anything that Nehemiah didn't make sure that it wasn't poison. And so he goes in to see the king, and this one particular time, he's sad. And the king looks at him and he says, "I thought you're always happy. Why are you sad right now?" And look at something that down in verse 4, I love it. It says, "The king said to me, 'What is it you want?' And he says, 'Then I prayed to the God of heaven and answered the king.'" Sometimes we get caught up in the idea that prayer is this idea that my hands are folded, my head is bowed, I'm next to my bed before I go to bed at night. This very, not really ritualistic, but it's this, I have to go do something to be in prayer. Prayer is actually the thought that I'm thinking about God. And it does not take a long time to do that. See, we're told that the Holy Spirit indwells us, and the Holy Spirit can speak to our mind and knows what our mind is saying, and it connects to the mind of God. And so the Holy Spirit transfers that and communicates what many times we're not capable of communicating. So Nehemiah is sitting here, he's prayed to God to do something. The king has noticed that he's sad. He just decides that he's going to blurt it out. And it wasn't just his thought. He says, basically he's saying, "Lord, I'm thinking you have put this situation in front of me to answer my prayer. And so I'm going to trust you in that." Doesn't say that, but that's basically what he does. So then he goes and he spells it all out for him. And the king, amazingly, agrees. And so he sends letters, and he asks for all sorts of stuff. He says, "I need letters to get some lumber so I can rebuild the gates." And he goes, okay. He says, "I need some protection along the way." And the king gives him protection along the way. And so it's what Nehemiah has asked for has basically come about. Now you get to the middle of chapter 2, and you see what's going to be the crux of the contention for the rest of this book. But it is with Sanballat and Tobiah. These are leaders in the area, and the last thing they want to see, like before, just like in Ezra, is that somebody is rebuilding Jerusalem, because they don't want to see it go back to its previous glory. And so they don't like it, and they want to do something to try and stop that. Nehemiah gets back, and then he goes around. In chapters 2, end of chapter 2 and chapter 3, he goes around, he looks at the wall at night, he tries to figure out what's going on. He says, we've got to rebuild these. And then chapter 3 is kind of neat, because it's all the different people, and they're all building the section in front of them. So the gates are being put back together, and then we're going to see later on that they have to connect all the walls around them. But slowly but surely, actually not even slowly, quickly but surely, they are reconstructing the gates, and then they're going to reconstruct the walls. And so Nehemiah has come back and he's gotten started with the task that he asked the king for permission to come do. Hope you enjoy the reading, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. Have a good night.